The story of Jesus of Nazareth, revered as the Son of God, has captivated hearts for centuries. His teachings of love and forgiveness resonate worldwide, yet a profound betrayal by Judas Iscariot sealed Jesus' fate. This act led to Jesus' crucifixion and remains a stark reminder of human treachery. Join us as we explore the enigma of Judas's betrayal. To comprehend Judas's betrayal, we must immerse ourselves in the historical context. The year was approximately 33 AD. Judea, under Roman rule, was simmering with political and religious tension. The Jewish people yearned for liberation from Roman oppression. Jesus emerged, captivating hearts with his message of hope and the coming kingdom of God. He challenged the religious elite and performed miracles. His teachings spread, attracting many followers. Among them were 12 disciples, including Judas Iscariot. These men came from diverse backgrounds. They were tasked with spreading Jesus' message. Judas Iscariot's name became synonymous with betrayal. The Gospels offer limited insights into Judas's background and motivations. Interpretations of Judas's actions range from greed to misunderstanding. By examining Judas's betrayal, we unravel the complexities of this pivotal moment in history. To grasp Judas's betrayal, we must understand the oppressive weight of Roman rule in Judea. The Roman Empire subjugated nations, imposing its will upon conquered peoples. For Judea's Jews, Roman rule was a profound affront to their beliefs and identity. This clash of civilizations created a volatile atmosphere rife with resentment and rebellion. Against this backdrop, Jesus of Nazareth emerged, igniting hope and controversy. The socio-political landscape of Judea in the 1st century AD was intertwined with a vibrant religious climate. Judaism encompassed various sects, each vying for influence. Prominent groups included the Pharisees, the Sadducees, and the Essenes. This diversity led to fragmentation and hostility. Amidst this, there was a shared yearning for the Messiah. The concept of a Messiah gained urgency under Roman oppression. Jesus stepped into this fervor, preaching love and forgiveness. His miracles captivated many, seen as the fulfillment of prophecies. News of Jesus' teachings spread like wildfire throughout Judea, drawing crowds eager to witness the extraordinary. Jesus represented hope amidst Roman occupation and religious legalism. His message of God's love and compassion resonated deeply with the oppressed. Jesus' teachings were controversial. He challenged the religious elite, accusing them of hypocrisy. He overturned the tables of the money changers in the temple. His actions earned him the enmity of those in power. Jesus' popularity grew with each passing day. He attracted a devoted following from all walks of life. Among these followers were the 12 disciples. These men would play a pivotal role in shaping history. As Jesus' fame grew, so did the scrutiny surrounding him. The Roman authorities viewed his growing popularity with alarm. The Jewish leaders plotted to silence him. Judas Iscariot grappled with doubts, setting in motion the ultimate betrayal. Judas Iscariot, despite his proximity to Jesus, harbored a darkness within his heart. Scholars speculate he was drawn to Jesus' message, but became disillusioned over time. Influenced by the political climate, Judas may have envisioned a more earthly kingdom. Entrusted with finances, he might have been tempted by greed or doubt. Judas's betrayal for 30 pieces of silver symbolizes his treachery. Was it greed, fear, or doubt that drove him? We explore these questions further. Judas's betrayal for 30 pieces of silver symbolizes greed and treachery, but was financial gain his only motive? The Gospels may have emphasized money to contrast Judas's motives with Jesus' message of love and sacrifice. Perhaps Judas believed his actions would force Jesus to fulfill a political destiny. As Jesus' ministry progressed, his teachings increasingly emphasized themes of humility, service, and the acceptance of suffering. He spoke of a kingdom that transcended earthly power and material wealth. This message clashed with Judas's expectations of a conquering hero who would restore Israel's political fortunes. The Gospels hint at Judas's growing disillusionment, portraying him as questioning Jesus' actions. When Mary anoints Jesus' feet with expensive perfume, Judas objects, suggesting the money could have been better spent on the poor. This act could reflect a deeper unease with Jesus' message and mission. Judas, accustomed to a more pragmatic approach, struggled with Jesus' emphasis on spiritual matters. As Jesus' predictions of his own suffering and death grew more frequent, Judas's unease intensified. He may have felt betrayed by the one he believed to be the Messiah, who was supposed to liberate their people, not succumb to oppression. Could Judas have rationalized his betrayal as a way of forcing a divine intervention? Or did he come to believe that Jesus was not the Messiah after all? The Gospels offer glimpses into Judas's inner turmoil, but his true motivations remain shrouded in mystery. Judas's betrayal is often viewed through the lens of predestination. This doctrine posits that God has predetermined all events, including the salvation or damnation of individual souls. From this perspective, Judas's betrayal was a necessary component of God's divine plan for the salvation of humanity. The Gospel of John suggests that Jesus knew of Judas's betrayal from the outset. This foreknowledge implies that Judas's actions were part of a larger cosmic drama, ordained by God. Judas becomes a tragic figure, an instrument of God's will, destined to play a pivotal role in salvation history. This interpretation raises profound questions about free will, responsibility, and the nature of God's justice. If Judas had no choice but to betray Jesus, can he truly be held accountable for his actions? Does God require the sacrifice of an innocent soul to ensure that Judas fulfills his predetermined role? The question of whether Judas acted freely or as an instrument of divine will remains open to interpretation, a testament to the enduring mystery at the heart of the Christian faith. The story of Judas Iscariot stands as a reminder of the complexities of human nature, the fragility of faith, and the enduring power of betrayal. While the Gospels offer glimpses into Judas's motivations, his true character and the reasons behind his actions remain shrouded in mystery. Was Judas driven by greed, disillusionment, or merely a pawn in a larger cosmic drama? Judas's story serves as a cautionary tale, a reminder that even those closest to us can betray us in profound ways. As we reflect on the legacy of Judas Iscariot, we are left with more questions than answers. It is in the asking of these questions that we may find a deeper understanding of ourselves, our relationship with the divine, and the enduring power of the story of Jesus of Nazareth. To understand Judas's internal turmoil, we must delve into the depths of his faith and the possible shattering blow of disillusionment. Imagine the initial spark of hope, the magnetic pull towards Jesus' teachings, a belief that here was the promised Messiah. Judas, like the other disciples, left everything behind to follow Jesus. Yet as time wore on, the weight of expectation may have pressed heavily upon Judas's shoulders. The promised kingdom, the overthrow of Roman rule, the glorious dawn of a new era, these hopes may have begun to crumble in the face of Jesus' teachings on humility and suffering. The dissonance between Judas's initial expectations and the reality of Jesus' message could have created a chasm within his heart. The Gospels hint at Judas's growing unease, his questioning of Jesus' actions. Was it merely a concern for the poor when he objected to Mary anointing Jesus' feet, or did it betray a deeper struggle to reconcile his worldly expectations with Jesus' emphasis on spiritual matters? As Jesus spoke more openly about his impending suffering and death, a chill must have run down Judas's spine. The cognitive dissonance, the clash between expectation and reality, could have fractured Judas's faith, leaving him adrift in a sea of confusion and despair. Judas likely carried a preconceived notion of the Messiah, shaped by centuries of religious tradition and fueled by the yearning for liberation from Roman rule. The image of a powerful king, a conquering hero, may have been deeply ingrained in his mind. Jesus' message of love, forgiveness, and a kingdom not of this world could have seemed at odds with these deeply held expectations. Perhaps Judas envisioned a more pragmatic approach, a strategic alliance with influential groups, or a calculated display of divine power. The Gospels suggest that Judas was responsible for the group's finances, hinting at a practical mind. Did he believe that Jesus was miscalculating, that a bolder course of action was needed to achieve their shared goal of liberation? The chasm between Judas's perceived vision of the Messiah's role and Jesus' commitment to humility and self-sacrifice could have created an insurmountable gulf. Judas may have grappled with the possibility that the leader he believed in was not fulfilling his destined role. This internal conflict could have driven Judas to a breaking point, his desperation mounting as he witnessed Jesus seemingly walking towards certain doom. Imagine the frustration, the sense of urgency, the feeling of helplessness as Judas observed Jesus' unwavering commitment to a path that seemed destined to end in defeat. Perhaps Judas believed that by taking matters into his own hands, he could force Jesus' hand, triggering a divine intervention or prompting him to embrace his perceived destiny as a political liberator. Within the intimate circle of the disciples, a subtle undercurrent of rivalry and ambition may have simmered beneath the surface of their shared faith. The Gospels hint at moments of competition among them, vying for Jesus' attention and favour. Judas, despite his position of trust handling the group's finances, may have harboured unspoken resentments, a gnawing jealousy towards those disciples who seemed closer to Jesus. Perhaps Judas, observing the unwavering devotion of Peter, James and John, felt a pang of inadequacy. This perceived distance, this feeling of being excluded from the true heart of Jesus' mission, could have festered within him. Resentment, like a venomous vine, can quickly entwine itself around even the purest of intentions. Judas, once drawn to Jesus' message of love and compassion, may have found himself consumed by a bitterness that warped his perception of his fellow disciples and his teacher. He may have convinced himself that they were blind to Jesus' supposed failings, that they lacked the foresight to see the path to true victory. This corrosive jealousy could have blinded Judas to the true nature of Jesus' mission, distorting his understanding of the kingdom Jesus sought to establish. In his mind, the vision of a restored Israel, a triumphant Messiah ruling over a liberated people, may have become linked with his own desire for recognition and validation. As the weight of disillusionment, misinterpreted expectations, and festering resentment bore down on Judas, he may have reached a breaking point. The impending confrontation with the authorities, Jesus' predictions of his own suffering and death, these ominous signs must have weighed heavily upon Judas's heart. Perhaps, in a last, desperate gamble to salvage his crumbling faith and force a different outcome, Judas made the fateful decision to betray Jesus. Did he believe that by handing him over to the authorities, he could trigger a divine intervention, a miraculous display of power that would reveal Jesus' true nature as the Messiah? Or did he, consumed by a warped sense of loyalty fueled by resentment, convince himself that he was acting in Jesus' best interests? The 30 pieces of silver may have represented, in Judas's mind, a necessary evil, a small price to pay for the potential salvation of his people. The tragedy of Judas lies not only in the act of betrayal itself, but also in the complex web of emotions and motivations that may have led him to that fateful decision. He stands as a cautionary tale, a reminder that even those closest to us can be driven to acts of unimaginable darkness when consumed by despair, resentment, and a distorted perception of reality. Judas's betrayal, though abhorrent, played a necessary role in the grand narrative of salvation. Jesus said, "The Son of Man goes as it is written, but woe to that man by whom he is betrayed." This suggests a preordained plan, where Judas plays a pivotal role. God can use even heinous acts to fulfill his purpose. Judas's betrayal was woven into God's plan for redemption. This perspective does not absolve Judas of responsibility. It invites us to consider a more expansive view of history. Judas becomes a tragic figure in a cosmic drama. This perspective challenges our sense of fairness. It offers hope that even dark deeds cannot thwart God's plan. The theological interpretation of Judas's betrayal as a necessary sacrifice inevitably raises profound questions about free will and predestination. If God indeed ordained Judas's actions, does this imply that humans are merely puppets, dancing to the tune of a pre-written script? What becomes of our moral responsibility, our capacity for choice, if our actions are ultimately predetermined? This paradox has occupied theologians and philosophers for centuries, with no easy answers. Some argue that God's foreknowledge does not negate free will, that God, in his infinite wisdom, can know the future without dictating it. Others suggest that free will, while real, operates within the boundaries of God's sovereignty, that our choices, while meaningful, ultimately unfold within a larger, divinely ordained framework. The story of Judas, viewed through this lens, highlights the complexity of this theological debate. Did Judas freely choose to betray Jesus, driven by his own selfish desires and misguided motives? Or was he, as some believe, a tragic pawn destined from the outset to play a predetermined role in the drama of salvation? Ultimately, the question of free will remains a mystery, a testament to the limits of human understanding when confronted with the vastness of God's knowledge and purpose. The story of Judas, rather than providing definitive answers, invites us to wrestle with these profound questions, to delve deeper into the mysteries of faith, and to acknowledge the limitations of our own finite perspectives. Despite Judas's betrayal, Jesus' story offers a powerful message of forgiveness. Even in pain, Jesus extends grace and compassion. He acknowledges Judas's actions with empathy. This act of forgiveness speaks volumes. It reminds us of God's boundless love and mercy. Even in our deepest failings, redemption is possible. The story of Judas Iscariot, forever etched in history, resonates with us centuries later. His name is synonymous with betrayal, a reminder of the darkness within the human heart. Yet Judas's legacy extends beyond his betrayal. He stands as a complex figure, a cautionary tale about power and resentment. His story challenges us to confront our own capacity for self-deception. It invites reflection on the complexities of human nature and God's grace. The story of Judas Iscariot is a poignant tapestry of faith-tested and human frailty laid bare. His motives remain shrouded in speculation and debate. Was it greed, disillusionment, or a tragic misunderstanding? The Gospels offer glimpses into his internal struggle. Even within the closest circle, darkness can take root. Judas's legacy serves as a potent reminder for self-reflection. It prompts us to examine our own motivations and to guard against jealousy, resentment, and worldly gain. Even within betrayal, there lies a glimmer of hope. Judas's actions unfold the grand tapestry of redemption. His betrayal becomes the catalyst for the ultimate triumph over death. If you found this exploration insightful, please share your thoughts below. What resonates most strongly with you about his story? What questions continue to linger in your mind? Let's engage in a meaningful discussion about this pivotal figure and his enduring impact on faith and the human experience.